What is up, guys? We're only 12 minutes late. That's pretty darn good. Thanks for being here. We're going to go through quick picks. Sometimes I'll read through the full write-ups and give a ton of thoughts, but I actually just put this entire article in the description of the video, so you can check it out if you want. We'll scroll through it quickly, but I'm going to give you my quick picks and then betting thoughts, both some risky stuff, some safe stuff, and let you know what I've considered but didn't play and what I did go ahead and play. Today at weigh-ins, we had a couple of things pop up. Giles is out, so the Gustafsson fight's canceled. Ketlen Vieira versus Maycee Chiasson, a really high-level fight, good fight, looking forward to it. Has moved up to 145, and I think it was Ketlen that needed it because she weighed in at the max, 146, and Macy weighed in at 144, and Ketlen has always just been really big for the division, right? So was almost expecting a weight miss here, but Macy just agreed to move it up a division. So Ketlen is going to have some size on her here, it seems like. Nascimento, he's been out a long time, frequently struggles making weight. He missed weight by a pound, but he looked really good. He didn't look totally drawn out and dehydrated. He didn't have any balance problems, so he looked good. And Barber, on the other hand, missed weight by a half a pound and looked pretty rough. Lots of, bones showing in her face there, really drawn out. At stare downs, she was huge compared to Blanchfield, of course. So something to consider, but this isn't the type of weight cut or weight miss that really benefits her. I don't think it looked like she really tried to make weight, missed by a half a pound, and refused to go try to cut that last half pound. So, if she's willing to give up 20% of her purse, it must have been pretty bad. She actually had quite a long layoff recently. It's been a while since we've seen her. And it appears that, during that layoff, she, as Dennis Reynolds would say, enhanced herself. And turns out that that extra half pound, that new half pound was the difference. So that enhancement got even more expensive today when she had to give Erin 20% of her purse. But she's only supposed to be 1 inch taller, and I thought she looked a little more than 1 inch taller today. She looked pretty darn big compared to Blanchfield. Let's start at the top here. We'll talk about my picks and quick reasons why, and then what action I have on them. I think Blanchfield's going to win a decision because we've seen her take down better wrestlers than Barber, and we've seen Barber taken down by worse wrestlers than Blanchfield. On the feet, it's all Macy. She's got way more pop, faster strikes. Blanchfield has some good technique in her strikes, but it's pretty darn slow, not a lot of power. Barber will do damage on you. She's always fighting mean, always looking to do damage, even if you're cage controlling her and trying to get her down, she will just frame off and bust your nose with elbows. She's really vicious. She's improved a lot, but I think it's a pretty binary fight like most of us. On the ground, it's all Blanchfield, and on the feet, it's all Barber. I think Blanchfield's going to get it done by decision. I've got the fight to start round 3 in a lot of parlays. I've got Blanchfield to win and the fight to start round 3 in a couple. Blanchfield to win a decision, parlayed up gently. So that's where I'm at. I think it's pretty safe to go over. If you wanted to do something risky here, which I didn't get to anything risky on this fight, you could look at split decision props, but I don't think that's going to happen. You could look at Blanchfield round 4, round 5 submission. I think those have a shot for the juicy odds that they're at. But I'm on Blanchfield decision here. Let's look at what the experts say. All right, so pretty much everyone's on Blanchfield, pretty much, everyone on decision that gave a prop out. We've got this full graphic on Patreon every week with every fighter, but I'm going to pull them all up for you as we go through here. So yeah, people really love this. It takes a lot of time, and everyone on here is an absolute GOAT. You got to support all these guys, and they all love it when they're the top expert of the week, and they earn a ruby. So far, I'm leading this year. I got 3 rubies, including my UFC Mexico sweep, where we made 164 units, only 33 official, 131 on my full sweep parlay. All right, Gamrot versus Klein. All week, I've been thinking that Klein is a super live dog. He's got 91% takedown defense, tons of power on the feet. Gamrot gets busted up and dropped every fight, even last fight where UFC Stats doesn't give him or give Hooker the credit for the knockdown. They both knocked each other down in round one, in my opinion. And so anyway, if you look at how often on UFC Stats Gamrot gets knocked down, I think it's even worse than it looks. He's had trouble holding guys down. He has to go for a ton of takedowns to get guys down. He went for 21 takedowns against Sarukian, went for 19 takedowns against Dos Anjos, and went for a ton of takedowns last fight against Hooker too. And so, Klein with his 91% takedown defense, much thicker and stronger than Gamrot or Hooker, and tons of power. He seems like a live dog, but Gamrot's just never faced anybody. I'm sorry, Klein, Ľudovít has never faced anybody with the takedown offense that Gamrot's going to bring to him. Not even close, of course. So, I'm only on like one underdog officially, but there's a couple, that I think are super live, and I think this one's super live. I don't have a whole lot of action on this fight. I think the split decision props were juicy. I considered Ľudovít plus 900 split decision. It's now plus 800. I think, if they fight 8, 9, 10 times, I think Klein's going to win a split decision across there. So I still might get to it, but the fact that I was indecisive at plus 900 and now it's plus 800, I should probably pass. But I do think that's live. I think, round one KO for Klein is a possibility, but I didn't get to anything risky on this fight. I actually pretty confident that it goes the distance. I do have the fight to go the distance in one super risky parlay. Let's see what the experts say. Pretty much everyone's on Gamrot by decision, but I know that all these folks are picking him reluctantly. Everyone knows that Klein's live here. I think this split of 10-2, 11-2 is a little misleading. I don't think the confidence of all of us that are on Gamrot is as confident as this would make it look. Klein finish only, I think it was like 185. That means if the fight goes to the decision, it just voids. That leg falls off your parlay. Klein to finish only minus 185. On FanDuel, it's called decision no bet. Most books call it a finish only. I think Klein finish only. It's pretty good value as a parlay leg at minus 185. Yeah, and I wrote early in the week that I think it's a dog or pass, but if I just really, I have to think about who would I pick if it was a pick 'em. I think I got to go Gamrot. All right, Billy Ray Goff versus Ramiz. We know we've seen Ramiz improve quite a bit, seemingly since he started training with Belal. All these guys that have been training with Belal are crushing it, like Ignacio Bahamondes. And last time out, Ramiz got his first ever KO. He was a very unique fighter that every single win he ever had was by round one sub, except for one he got an early round two sub. But Ramiz has never won a decision. He had never gotten a KO until last fight when he absolutely starched Mickey Gall. Mickey had his head straight up in the pocket. Ramiz throws a nice 3-punch combo in the final punch. I think it was like the final punch of the 3 was the only one that landed. It puts Mickey like clean out. But we've seen Ramiz improve a lot, so I don't think the reputation of having no striking and having no cardio is as accurate as it used to be. I think he's competitive here. He's very durable and tough. He's never been finished except for one time when his ear was literally knocked off and he was down to continue. So Goff is a really fun fighter. I think this has fight of the night written all over it. Goff is like nonstop forward pressure, nonstop striking. He never just stands at distance and throws low kicks. And feints. If he's standing at distance, he's going to throw nonstop low kicks. And then he flashes up a front kick to the face, which is kind of hidden. It looks a little bit like that low kick, and it's sneaky, but he will never just stand around looking at you. He's nonstop action, incredibly exciting. We did see some cardio concerns out of him in the Trey Waters fight, It's a tough fight. Trey Waters is super tall, but Goff came out like a bat out of hell, just landing a ton of volume on him. And then pretty quickly, Trey started landing on him about, 2 minutes in when Goff started to slow down a bit. But Goff's really durable. I like this fight to go the distance. If you wanted to look for a really risky prop, I think Ramiz round 1 and 2 props. Round 1 sub is his MO, but Goff is a tad hittable, really reckless, really aggressive. I think there's a chance that Ramiz could land something heavy on him. But, I think Ramiz early or Goff late, like Goff round 3 KO, I think is decently likely. But I'm on Goff's decision here, plus 220 pretty confidently. I actually have that in a really risky parlay. So I'm on Goff decision. It's going to be a banger. Let's see what other folks say. Pretty much everyone's on Goff. Everyone's on Goff. A lot of people think he's going to get a KO, but I would reiterate how durable Ramiz is. Let's see if I can make this bigger. No. There we go. And most folks tend to think, Lay, my homie, UFC gambling addicts, Lay's on the decision. Smart guy. I think it goes to decision as well. And if you were going to play, Johnny K, the GOAT, also on decision. I think if you were going to play a Goff KO, I don't think it's going to happen in round 1. I think it'd be round 2 or 3. Any other thoughts there? No, I think that's it. All right. Jacoby versus Lopes. Jacoby's a stud. I've been a fan of his for a long time. Really good kickboxing, good power. He's gotten some surprising KOs. He's slowed down a little bit recently, specifically with his footwork. He's still got fast hands, power in his hands, but he's a little more plodding and hittable in there. He's got a little bit of durability concerns creeping in on him. I historically liked playing Jacoby by decision, but he's gotten a couple finishes recently. Round 1 KO over Dong Jun, that round 3 KO, parlay buster for a lot of folks against Petrino. But Petrino was looking pretty good there on the feet at distance, just outpointing him, which Jacoby's not used to. Typically he's able to outpoint most folks. I'm on Jacoby here, but I can't decide on a prop. I don't have any action on this except for Jacoby to have more significant strikes in a parlay. And I think that's very, very likely. Bruno has got good finishing skills. He's well-rounded, but I think he's got far inferior striking here. He's incredibly hittable. In his contender series fight, Mikhail Sajiniani was looking real good in the striking. Bruno was hurt pretty bad. Bruno was not looking good until Mikhail had an all-time gas bag job. Completely faded, got super tired, and then Bruno was able to put it on him in round 2. In his last fight against Magomed Gajiasulov, he just cage controlled the entire fight. Magomed is pretty undersized for 205. In this matchup against Jacoby, he's not undersized. Jacoby's huge. I don't think Bruno's going to be able to cage control him, and I don't think he's going to do very well on the feet against Jacoby. I'm on Jacoby pretty confidently. I'm probably going to play one more parlay, and it's going to have Jacoby in it. So far, I don't have him in anything except for the significant strikes, and I can't decide on a KO prop or a decision prop for Jacoby. I think it could go either way. I think Bruno is quite hittable. Most folks are on Jacoby. Most folks are on the KO prop. I think if you were going with Lopes, I would tend to think decision. But as I mentioned, Jacoby's got some cardio durability concerns that some people think he might get, chin checked here. But and Bruno's got power. These are big old boys. They're probably walking in there around 230 pounds. And so anything can happen. But I think Jacoby's got just far better striking here. So, yeah, I'll go Jacoby decision. Jacoby most significant strikes. All right, Zach Reese versus Duško. A very exciting fight. Everyone's expecting a round 1 finish here. Reese is powerful. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's far bigger than Duško here. But he's lost a couple times by knockout when he gets his head. It's like the back of his head, as Clint from Die Hard MMA pointed out. He's not chinny to the chin. He's chinny to the back of his head. If he gets slammed, falls back, gets some illegal shots, he shows that damage immediately. But he's just far more skilled here, I think. One of the problems with Reese is that he's too content to play off his back, and it's cost him. He was going for arm bars against Cody Brundage, got slammed, got knocked out. He was on the ground last fight against Azamat Bikoyev, and Bikoyev KO'd him with ground and pound. So, Reese needs to keep it standing here, or at least not get taken down. And I think Duško would be smart to go for takedowns, because Reese will kind of accept them and start fishing for Kimura, trying to throw up his legs for a triangle or armbar. And I don't think that's a great move. Zach Reese by submission only, so any KO or decision, I think I was surprised by the odds. I thought it should be like minus 500. I really don't think Duško is going to submit him, not in a million years. So I kind of thought the Zach Reese submission only would be far wider than it is, but I think it was like minus 185 if I recall. Something decently playable. Zach Reese should land way more volume on the feet, so Zach Reese to have more significant strikes, like on FanDuel, I think is a good parlay leg. If you wanted to get to something risky, maybe look at like a round 2 decision here. This fight's heavily favored to go under 1.5. But if Duško's smart, he's going to try to avoid the firefight a little bit. He might try to employ some cage control. He might go for a takedown. The takedown props in this fight, I think, are enticing. So Duško to land a takedown is like a pick'em. To land 2 or more takedowns is plus 300. And I think he should try. I don't think he'd be very wise to strike with how often he gets hurt on the feet against the much faster, taller, longer Zach Reese. So I think we could see Duško go for a takedown. He'd probably get it because Reese will give it up. So 1 takedown pick'em, 2 takedowns plus 300. And then the Reese takedown props are juicy too. To land 1, it's plus 225, and to land 2 or more, it's plus 800 on DraftKings. I think those are both worth a poke. I haven't played those yet, but I think those are good value. But I'm on Zach Reese, KO. I haven't really played it. I have Reese money line in 2 2 low unit parlays, kind of risky. Don't care, nothing super meaningful in terms of parlays. But I think Reese gets it done. He's just way bigger, jiu-jitsu edge. The problem, again, though, is how he's willing to get taken down. And he just got knocked out bad 2 months ago. He's making a pretty quick turnaround for how he was hurt so bad in his last fight. So I think that's concerning. So everyone's expecting a round 1 KO one way or the other. If you play daily fantasy lineups, you got to have one of these guys in every single lineup. You got to have heavy exposure to this fight. All right, Allan Nascimento. Oh, let's look at the expert props real quick. So pretty much everybody on Reese by round 1 KO. I get it. Big time jiu-jitsu edge there, though, I think. So if you were going to play like a Reese KO, I think you just play Reese inside the distance. Or if you're playing Reese round 1 KO, you might just benefit by playing the Reese round 1 instead. Protect yourself in case he does get a sub, because he likes to throw him up, and I think Duško should try to get it to the ground. All right, one of the toughest fights to pick, Allan Nascimento versus Jafel Filho. Jafel used to have absolutely awful striking, just looping everything, airballing everything, but it's been a little better. It sounds kind of silly because his last fight against Ode Osborne, we saw literally just 20 seconds of striking before he went for the takedown. He kind of failed the takedown, but then a 6 scramble, he just threw Ode all the way, 270 degrees on the ground to land on top, and it looked like Jafel was going to land on bottom. He's obviously got incredibly dangerous submissions. He's hurtable but durable, gritty. He's famous for almost submitting Mokaev, hurting Mokayev's knee pretty bad with that knee bar. This guy's pretty darn good, but Beres had him hurt really bad. His striking used to be pretty gosh darn rough. So I started to mention, I think it sounds silly because it was only 20 seconds of striking against Ode Osborne, but I think Jafel's striking has vastly improved. He looked a lot more fluid on the feet, much better balance, much more technical punches in the limited number that we were able to see. But just the footwork alone, if you look at the Barres fight versus the Ode fight, the footwork alone looked light years ahead of where it used to be. So I think Jafel's improving quite a bit. Allan is a pretty good wrestler, not the greatest. He times his takedowns really well. Jafel does not time his takedowns well. He's just so squirmy and slippery and pretty strong in those situations that it'll get you down. But like where Jafel will airball takedowns pretty frequently, reaching down for the knees, ugly, pretty ugly. Allan times his takedowns really, really, really well, and that allows him to get them at a pretty solid clip because like his takedowns are not the most technical or the strongest. They're pretty darn smart when he does them. Allan's got decent top pressure. I think he's got the, sufficient jiu-jitsu to avoid getting submitted here. I don't think he's going to submit Filho. I think Filho's got better jiu-jitsu, but I think Nascimento can get takedowns and stay safe on top. Allan is a little more just technical, a little more basic in the striking. So this was one of the toughest fights to pick. Early in the week, I thought I'd go with Filho as an underdog. I think I got to go with Nascimento, probably by decision. And he missed weight, as I mentioned, but he looked really fine. He looked totally fine up there. I was a little surprised, actually, when they said he wasn't going to continue trying to cut because he looked fine enough that he looked like he might have been able to get another half pound, another pound out of him. I guess he needed a full pound. So I'm on Allan to get takedowns, stay safe from submissions, win a decision, but it's perhaps my, least confident pick, one of the toughest fights to pick. Most folks are on Nascimento here, decision or maybe a late sub. I actually was looking at this fight to end by submission. I think plus 240 on FanDuel. Either one of these guys, could get a submission. Maybe Filho could get it any time, but especially if Nascimento gets tired later on, I could see a late submission for Filho. I could also see a late submission for Nascimento if he's able to grind him out for 2 rounds and kind of hurt Filho on the ground a little bit, wear him out. But Filho could get one anytime, including round 1. I think Nascimento could only really get a submission late, but I think it's going to go to decision. Nascimento's going to win, due to top time. I don't have really anything on that fight. I don't think. I've been staring at that fight to end by submission for days at plus 240, but I haven't played it. All right, another incredibly tough fight. We looked at the expert picks there. Another incredibly tough fight to pick. Important fight. 2 really good fighters. Ketlen Vieira versus Maycee Chiasson. Chiasson is on a little run of finishes. She got that ground and pound elbow slicing cut stoppage over Mayra Bueno Silva last fight. And she got the round 1 rear naked choke over Pani Kianzad. You hate to do MMA math too much, but she made Kianzad look really bad, whereas Kianzad, had her moments late against Ketlen. She actually was on top of Ketlen in round 3, and she probably won round 3. So, that was just 2 fights ago for both of them. Like, Pani looked good in round 3 against Ketlen, and she didn't even make it to round 2 against Macy. But I think, if we just look at the styles in this matchup, Macy's got to get takedowns, and she's going to have some struggles. Ketlen's got really good takedown defense, especially against the cage. I think Macy might have a little more luck out in space getting takedowns here. But on the feet, Macy's improving a lot. She's got some diverse kicks. She's got tons of lateral movement. But I think on the feet, it's Ketlen for sure. Just far more technical, lots of straight shots, good striking defense, a little more power on the feet, I think. So I think, this becomes a binary fight where Macy's got to get takedowns. Ketlen has pretty darn good takedown defense. She fought off 6 of 8 takedowns against Kayla Harrison last time out, who's like minus 550 to win the belt in her next fight, right? So I think that was a decent showing from Ketlen against Kayla Harrison. Really, really, really tough fight to pick. I'll go with the underdog, Ketlen Vieira, to fight off some takedowns and win a decision. I am heavy on this fight to start round 3. If this fight ends in the first 2 rounds, it's almost impossible for me to have a good night. I would say if you wanted to play something risky, you could look at the split decision props, but they're like not even that juicy. So tough one. Maybe the fight to end by split. Again, not very juicy, but pretty darn likely. But I think Ketlen's going to win a decision. And I'm a big fan of Maycee Chiasson, so I hate to say it. But they're both very good. Everyone's all over Chiasson, and people are saying, like, oh, her striking's better. Her striking's improved. She's got better striking than Ketlen Vieira. I disagree. But there you go. All right. Jordan Leavitt versus Kurt Holobaugh. Kurt was like huge in comparison at stare downs today. We knew he was 2 inches taller here, but he looked like a weight class bigger darn near, thick. He's a strong guy. He's gritty. He's good, good in scrambles. He's a fun fighter, forward pressure brawler with good cardio, good durability, gritty, will fight for your dollar. Lots to like about him. The problem is Kurt is pretty easy to take down historically, and that's what Jordan's going to want to do. Jordan isn't completely terrible on the feet, but he certainly wants to get it to the ground here, and I think he's going to win a decision. I'm heavy on this fight to start round 3 as well, so I'm a little nervous about Jordan maybe getting an early submission, but I don't see it happening. Holobaugh's got pretty good jiu-jitsu. I think he's going to be able to stay safe, make it to round 3 for us. And that's all I got there. Most folks are on Leavitt. Everyone that's on Leavitt is by decision. Everyone that's on Kurt is by finish. I do think the Holobaugh finish only prop, it had my eye, but I don't think I'd play that. I think if you wanted to play Holobaugh, maybe you go round 2-3 KO. All right. Late replacement. Look at all these let's scroll to the bottom here. Sorry to go on a tangent, but 6 write-ups get canceled. Giles, Gustafson, Markwell, Sokyanko, Oban Elliott, and Jeremiah Wells. So many freaking cancellations on this card. So much wasted work. Pretty darn frustrating, but I'm looking forward to the fights. We had a week off. So late notice replacement, Michael Aswell. He's known for fighting on Contender Series where he lost, decently close fight to Bogdan Grad. And that loss has aged a little better since Bogdan looked really good in his last fight. Problem is, Michael was in camp. He's supposed to fight in late June, but he was, 3 weeks away from peaking. So, wasn't quite at his prime yet. Plus, he's fighting up a division here. He's got to fight at lightweight. And he looked a division smaller at stare downs. Bolaji is gigantic here. But Aswell is no scrub. Aswell is really good. Very smooth. He's just polished. He's skilled, good footwork, good 1-2. But he's very basic on the feet. All he ever throws is a 1-2. Bolaji, I think, is a tiny bit overrated. He's good. He's big. He's technical. Good jab. Some decent power, but he's not murderously, thunderously powerful. He's not really great at anything. But he's not bad at anything. He can fight going forwards or backwards. I think he's got pretty sound striking defense most of the time. His jiu-jitsu is a major concern. He was not doing the right things to fight off that guillotine against Chris Duncan, even though he got out the first time and technically, got out the second time, but he was sleeping by the time he got out. I didn't like the defense there on that guillotine attempt from Chris Duncan at all. 2 fights ago, he fought another featherweight that was on short notice up a weight class, Timmy Kwamba, and Timmy looked good. I don't think Bolaji is a world beater. I was actually going to go with Markwell, as the underdog before Medeiros, fell out. I wasn't overly confident. I just thought it should be a closer line. I think Markwell is pretty decent and Bolaji is also just pretty decent. But in this matchup, just with the big size advantage, I got to go Bolaji. I got him in a couple parlays. Can't decide on a prop. I wanted to do Bolaji decision because Aswell is quite durable, but Bolaji decision was plus 125. So 0 chance. I was thinking the KO prop would be juicier and, maybe we get a better line on the decision prop, but no such luck. not everybody's done a breakdown of this fight because it's so late notice, but everybody's on Oki. Tapology thinks he's going to get a KO, but two really smart experts think a decision, like I was thinking. All right, last fight of the night, Rayan dos Santos versus Alice Ardelian. I think Rayan is just vastly more skilled here. Far better striking offense, far better striking defense, far better jiu-jitsu. What Ardelian is better at is top control. And that's a little concerning here for Rayan, who's undersized. And gosh, we knew she was going to be a little smaller, but at stare downs and weigh-ins, Alice looked way bigger, way more muscled, thicker, taller. So I think if she can get Rayan down, Rayan's got good jiu-jitsu, landed a lot of arm bars, but they're often like offensive arm bars from top. She's not always pulling these off from guard from her back. So, I think there's a concern that Rayan could get held down here by the bigger Alice, who has very good top control, like I said. And if Rayan gets takedowns, she's got real challenges holding girls down. She often allows scrambles. So, on the ground, I think it's a pretty close fight. On the feet, it's night and day. I think Rayan should try to keep it standing, put it on her with the vastly superior striking. I was going to play like some overs on this fight, parlay, fight to start round 3 or something, but it was crazy gassed. It was like minus 450. It almost made me tempted to play, an under 1.5 or under 2.5 here, because I think there's a chance that Rayan could submit her. She's got the far better jiu-jitsu. I think if they fight 6 times, Rayan's going to get a submission one of the times. And for that reason, I went ahead and played Rayan by submission plus 500 for 1 unit, just a small little stab. I think it's got a shot. She only needs to hit it 1 in 6 fights to break even, because 5 of those you'd lose a unit. The 6th one you gain 5 units, so you'd break exactly even. So she only needs to do it 1 in 6 attempts to break even. I think she can do that. I would think it would be round 2 or 3 if it happens. So if you wanted to get real frisky, that's a way you could look. Both of these girls have 2 fights in the UFC, and they're both split decision losses. So, obviously, or I guess the Melissa Martinez loss for Alice was a unanimous, but, pretty darn likely that they could have another split decision here. But I don't see it. I think Rayan's going to look really, really good here. Interestingly, a ton of money poured in on Alice today. Rayan was like minus 295. Now she's like minus 230, 220. She might have been like minus 218 on DraftKings, if I recall. I think it's because of the stare downs and just how big Alice looked. There was also a ton of money that poured in on Barber today, and I think it was because of how big she looked compared to Blanchfield. So Rayan's even better value now. If you wanted a real safe prop, like a real safe parlay leg, Rayan plus 3.5 rounds was minus 500. Obviously, that's incredibly chalky, but if you were a little worried about playing her money line, if you were worried about playing any overs, I think that plus 3.5 protects you in case she loses a 29-28 or loses a split. And if, protects you in case the fight does end early due to a Rayan submission. So if you wanted something super chalky, minus 500, Rayan plus 3.5 rounds. Other smart folks would say if you want like a safe straight bet, Alice plus 3.5 rounds. They're expecting a 29-28. I personally am not considering that because I think Rayan has a chance to absolutely breeze through this fight. Let's look at those props and go eat some dinner. Yeah, so 138 MMA, my guy Tyler, smart guy, Alice plus 3.5. Lay, the homie, Alice decision. Everyone else is on Rayan decision, except me. I'm on Rayan submission plus 500. Appreciate y'all being here. Check out the link that's in the description so you can read this whole article. Hit me up. Tell me your locks. Appreciate y'all being here. Let's enjoy these fights. Peace.